Jay Viper on X said, the worst people are now trying to push Take Us North as the game has been exposed as propaganda that is being paraded around by the UN and is directly connected to the World Economic Forum and Visa through its founder, as well as funded by Microsoft and Wings Interactive, among a slew of other checkboxes that have been found discovered. This Sweet Baby Inc. could also be somehow connected to this as well, allegedly. These sycophants never want you to focus on the whole picture. It's always about how they can tweak your feelings to get you to act the way they want you to through emotional manipulation. And I bet you guys can guess who we're talking about right now. The Gamescom stand-up presentation was entirely a propaganda piece, and they didn't even present the trailer at that point. It was full of heart-tugging lies and buzzwords that avoided the truth as they instructed the crowd how to think. They got caught and they deleted and privated everything. Why is it important to focus on games and devs like this? Because they have direct ties to the problems that plague gaming as large companies begin to use it to push ideology and agenda. The issue here is also that these companies like to hide in the shadows and use puppets like Karla Reyes to spread their message for them. And to that point, by the way, I think if I had to guess, Karla probably knew exactly what was going on. But if it came to light that she actually had no idea that she was being used as a puppet piece in all of this, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that also makes sense too. Completely clueless girl boss leader. Yep, checks out. He said, keep up with the story as it's going to keep growing, which I strongly agree with. Shout out to Master TDS. And yes, huge shout out to Master TDS. And hey, and me for uncovering these details, and to Asmon Gold for shining a light on it before they could delete all the evidence and erase themselves from social media. And he screenshots Alyssa Mercante, who had a live stream as a public figure today on her Twitch channel, just going off, mad at the chuds, angry that people would dare question promoting illegals entering the country. Somehow that's a bad thing to question that, because of course it is, from that mentality that she has. She says, does anyone have direct contact for Jeff Keighley? I want to ping him about supporting Take Us North and its dev team as they faced an onslaught of abuse after their Gamescom presentation. It's abuse. It's abuse for reacting, for saying, what the fuck is this? For saying nobody wants this? Who's paying for this? Who's behind this? What is going on here? For questioning it? That's abuse? What? Like, maybe that used to work like 20 years ago. That shit doesn't fly anymore. Like, people, these words, the problem that I have with it is because, like, it devalues the meaning of the word abuse. Because the word abuse is actually a very deepful, meaningful word that has raw hurt to actual lives, physically, mentally, attacking people, unjustified, by the way, instead of, hey, what are your connections behind the scenes here? Which, by the way, that's all I've seen happen, where people are like, this is an eerie connection. Why'd they private this? That's not an onslaught of abuse. I don't know how to tell her this, but my goodness. He said, we knew this would happen, by the way. They can't help themselves. Absolutely on point. Savvy replied, of course she wants to talk to propagandists. Of course she wants that World Economic Forum connection, which I didn't even think of this, but that's a great point. This is actually, in a weird way, Alyssa advertising herself as the brand to be someone to represent the World Economic Forum as an ally to them. Like, hey, this is me signaling to you guys, I am with you. So let me work with you. I can be your pawn in this game. Doesn't she understand? She is nothing. They pulled out every connection possible for this game. even dipping back into ex-Obama era people, which is very true. I talked about that in a previous video. She wasn't important. They didn't need her or Kotaku. Great point. Great point. It's almost like the industry has grown beyond trying to utilize these useless journalists. They realized that they didn't do anything for them to push the game. They realized that they had no impact on the gamers on the whole. So why even bother? They're skipping the step. They're like, we don't need this. We don't need this anymore. These journals are a waste. The gamers themselves are going to YouTubers, to Twitch streamers, to Kick streamers, to Rumble streamers. They don't go to these journalists anymore for information. They can't be trusted. These companies see that. The smart money knows exactly what's happening and where people go for their information. This isn't like an own, or I'm not saying this as an own over Kotaku or a gotcha, even though it kind of is. This is just reality. She doesn't really understand. She will never be allowed in the club because she is too much of a liability and loose cannon. Good point. Good point. So my translation of what Savvy's saying here is, Alyssa's trying to make herself look like an ally to the World Economic Forum, allegedly, potentially. But what Savvy's saying is, you've shown yourself to be untrustworthy enough where it's not worth the effort with you. They'll go with other people because you are a wild card. You could literally do whatever you want. They can't trust you. Jay Viber said, "Oh, I think you'll appreciate this the most. Here she is insisting we're upset that we aren't access media. I laugh so hard, as if interviewing indie devs is some huge milestone. Been there, done that, got many t-shirts." This is classic, by the way. I'm so glad Jay brought this one up. Alyssa said, "Must remember, they're so awful to us because they can't get close to anything in this industry." I have at least 7, and I'm not even exaggerating, 7 DM conversations with high up CEOs at massive companies in my X right now. No, I'm not going to be distributing names and telling people who it is. And you don't have to believe me if you don't want to. But sorry, Alyssa, the bus has passed you by. They don't need you anymore. We are the industry now. I don't know how else to tell you this. She continues, "We worked hard to be able to interview the people behind fascinating games, as if to imply people on YouTube don't work hard." Impressive logic. Okay. They get an ex-Blizzard dev from 10 plus years ago. Man, according to Alyssa, the way she throws lawsuits at me, it almost feels like Grums has a lawsuit using her logic against her here for harassment from 10 plus years ago, and a composer who placed 4th in a Nevada Republican primary. So she's going at multiple people that we all know and love, good people in the game industry that talk to us. She doesn't like that we're buddy with Marty O'Donnell, the former composer of Halo. She doesn't like that we know Mark Kern. She doesn't like that. She thinks these people are, because they talk to us, that they are not important anymore. That's not how this works. Zero Dozer says she doesn't understand that the world wants her gone. I mean, to be fair, away from the game industry, I think is what they mean. But it continues. We got Savvy, who says, and shout out to Jay Viper in the chat, by the way. Legendary tweets today on this stuff. Savvy says, yes, because an interview means you're really part of the industry. No, Alyssa, you're literally no one. If you were not no one, you would have been part of some of the propaganda pushes, but you're always glazing in through the window. That's a great point, by the way. She likes to be a Me Too girl, like, oh, I'm with them. I'm with you. Slay Queen. Yeah. She's never actually with the group. She's looking through the window at them, trying to get in, pretending that she's in with them. Do you know why none of us feel the need to flaunt our experiences? Because devs, CEOs, etc., They're just normal people. They aren't mystical, impossible to get to divine beings, which, by the way, I will push back a little bit. When I first got into this kind of stuff, I did used to look at them like that until my channel started growing and they started reaching out to me proactively. And I was kind of like starstruck and they started just talking to me like a normal fucking person. And I'm like, oh, they're just a normal person like me. Crazy, crazy. This includes talking to Notch behind the scenes. The guy literally created Minecraft. A little bit taken back, starstruck, if you will, by just chatting with him. But after a conversation, I'm just like, oh, he's just a dude, a very rich dude, but a dude at the end of the day. I've turned down jobs. I've turned down my dream job, not once, but several times. Meanwhile, Alyssa admits none of her interviews or travels have ever led to a job. She isn't employable. Someone she knows had to give her a pity part-time position as a waitress. She couldn't even get a waitress job on her own in New York City. That is pathetic. As I always say when it comes to Madame Savvy, mental note, keep her on my good side. If you aren't turning down jobs at events, you're just going out of FOMO. Maybe first 5 events, you don't get an offer. I'll be generous. But by several years, just stop. I turned down my first script writing offer in 2009 and the second VidCon event. I wanted to focus on college. That was the first time I ever went to some event and did some socializing and networking. I was 18. So what's your resume, Alyssa? Let's see it. Let's compare who is more employable and who is actually part of the industry. The person who has worked on herself, learning daily for decades, who does actual research, or the person who says, come fight me, while simping on a terrorist supporter who idols want the LGBT dead, who is disgusted by your torch and has to wipe his hand after a limp shake. God damn, Savvy. And Kill says, that's a lot of words for someone who definitely does not care. Reeks of jealousy. Savvy says, yes, I'm very jealous of the unemployable individual who isn't married, who is hurting for money, who is hated by everyone, and lives in a rat shit stained apartment in the city that is overrun with illegals. If that is a lot of wording for you, my feed would scare you. And I'll leave it at this one because I think this is curious with what's going on behind the scenes. This was shared with me, and of course, I said 2 pathological liars linked up online. Shocking. Thick as thieves. Pathetic. These people really do know how to find each other in this world, don't they? Now, the last time I talked about Alanah Pearce is how I thought it was curious that she followed Airbagged. Now it all makes sense. Alanah Pearce said, I very distinctly remember anyone who makes any effort to support me in the face of harassment because so few people do. It is largely dealt with silently and completely alone with zero support. That's because it's not fucking harassment. People are trying to be nice to you and being like, just fucking deal with it on your own because that's not harassment. You don't even know what harassment is. That's the problem. You think anyone pushing back any mild criticism turns into harassment with you. That people are done with that. They're not going to lay themselves on the line and be like, yes, Slay Queen, we're with you. This is harassment. This is bad. And sometimes actual disdain. Yeah, because they're looking at you like you're pathetic. From those who pretend to be champions. And this is quote tweeting Alyssa Mercante. Major companies and industry leaders need to protect developers, partners, and creators. Speak out against harassment campaigns. Ignoring them allows the people who are already safe and untouchable to remain so, while leaving at-risk folks to face hate and harassment head-on and alone. The lack of logic in this statement is actually impressive because she is placing the importance level on individuals, being like, oh, you are touchable, you are untouchable. And because I feel like you are important and I disagree with you ideologically, people should be able to legally take you down. And the people that agree with me ideologically are at a disadvantage because they're at-risk folks and they're marginalized or something. And because of that, shield up, we're protected, and you're not allowed to criticize us at all. That's not how this fucking works. This is actually one of the most embarrassing arguments I've ever seen in the battlefield of online media. This is actually insane. An impressive new low for Alyssa Mercante. And that's saying something. And to see Alanah Pearce quote tweet her, and then Alyssa Mercante retweet Alanah, I'm like, the insane behind the scenes nepotism where they just promote each other over and over and over again. It's the same people running in the same circles. These are why your games aren't improving, people. That's why you need to get these people away from your company, in my humble opinion. But anyways, I will leave that one there.